Capabilities and weaknesses. At De Mortis, US tank crews fought the first American tank-on-tank battle of the war, demonstrating that their weapons were effective, though losses mounted when forced to fight in the open. Later battles, like at Baluag, showed the Stuarts' superiority in close combat. Its combination of firepower and crew coordination defeated Japanese tanks without American losses. But tactical wins could not solve the larger strategic issues. Shortages of fuel, poor logistics, and the unrelenting Japanese advance forced the Americans to retreat into Bataan. This revealed that strategic limitations, more than the tank's battlefield performance, shaped the Stuarts' role in the campaign. In early 1942, the M3 Stuarts of the Provisional Tank Group remained a crucial part of Bataan's defense. Their light weight and high speed allowed them to move on poor roads, launch counterattacks. In Europe, armored warfare was a tale of speed, power, and massive tank engagements. But on the burning islands of the Pacific, the story unfolded very differently. The challenge was not only the enemy, but also the unforgiving terrain, thick jungle, sharp coral reefs, and rain-soaked mud. At the beginning of the war, the M3 Stuart light tank became the backbone of the island-hopping campaigns. It adapted to the harsh environment and cleared the path for a new generation of American tanks. In late 1941, the US Army sent its only armored force to the Philippines, made up of 2 battalions of M3 Stuarts. These units were later merged into the Provisional Tank Group. The Stuart was light, quick, and carried a 37mm gun, capable of penetrating Japan's main early war tank, the Type 95 Hago. These first clashes marked the entry of American armor into World War II, highlighting both its and act as mobile artillery. Their 37mm gun and multiple machine guns were effective against both tanks and infantry. However, Japanese infantry quickly adapted, using anti-tank guns, explosives, and artillery to neutralize the Stuarts' advantages. Air power added further pressure, with strafing and bombing runs targeting the tanks and their supply routes. By April, fuel shortages, lack of spare parts, and logistical collapse left most Stuarts immobilized. Their crews were ordered to destroy them to prevent capture, effectively ending America's armored resistance in the Philippines. The Stuart reappeared later in 1942 during the Guadalcanal campaign. Its lightweight again proved useful in jungle terrain where heavier tanks could not operate effectively. The tank was used as mobile fire support against well-fortified Japanese positions. Its 37mm gun destroyed earthworks and pillboxes, while its machine guns supported infantry in close-range fighting. By late 1942, American production had delivered Stuarts in large numbers, ensuring a steady flow to the Pacific. Lessons learned in Bataan and Guadalcanal revealed the Stuarts' dual nature, fast and reliable, but vulnerable in long, head-on fights. By 1943, the M3 Stuart had become indispensable in jungle operations where mobility often mattered more than raw firepower. In New Guinea, Australian forces first used the M3A1 in the grueling battles of Buna and Gona. The tank's light weight allowed it to move along narrow jungle paths, but it was exposed to hidden Japanese guns, and several were lost in direct attacks. The heavy casualties showed the high cost of pushing tanks into well-prepared jungle defenses. As the Allies moved through the Solomon Islands, both the M3 and its improved M5 variant played a key role in supporting operations. In New Georgia, Japanese 37mm and 47mm guns could still pierce the Stuarts' thin armor. But the M5's mechanical reliability meant it could keep fighting under punishing conditions. The November assault on Tarawa demonstrated both the usefulness and limits of light tanks in amphibious warfare. Coral reefs, mines, and concentrated Japanese fire inflicted heavy losses. This battle also saw the Pacific debut of the M4 Sherman, whose 75mm gun was much more effective against reinforced Japanese bunkers. Yet, even Shermans were vulnerable to mines and often sank in shell craters. At Cape Gloucester, the M5A1 Stuart continued to prove its value when paired with infantry. Although often bogged down in mud and swamps, tank infantry teams cleared Japanese positions through coordinated attacks. By the end of 1943, the Stuart was still essential in the Pacific, but its role increasingly shifted to supporting the heavier Sherman tanks. By 1944, the M5 Stuart was no longer a frontline battle tank, but was used mainly for reconnaissance, fire support, and security missions. On Saipan, its speed and low ground pressure made it ideal for scouting and protecting flanks, but the rough terrain exposed its weaknesses. Sandy beaches, coral ridges, and buried explosives often disabled tanks of all types. The Stuart's 37mm gun struggled against reinforced bunkers, requiring close-range fire or support from flamethrower tanks. Still, Stuarts could quickly suppress enemy positions in areas where Shermans could not reach as fast. Peleliu's jagged coral terrain and cave defenses further reduced the advantages of light armor and speed. The harsh conditions caused frequent mechanical breakdowns. Combat experience confirmed the growing reality that light tanks alone could no longer overcome heavily fortified Japanese defenses. Leyte offered different conditions. Its larger, flatter terrain favored the Stuarts' mobility. Within tank battalions, Stuarts were assigned to light companies that worked alongside Shermans. Their missions included scouting roads, securing flanks, and clearing the way for infantry, while Shermans spearheaded the main attacks. By late 1944, the Stuart was no longer a decisive weapon, but became an important supporting element in combined arms operations. Its speed and reliability made it valuable for reconnaissance and rapid response. In 1945, the M5A1 Stuart still played a significant role in U.S. ground operations. American tank battalions often consisted of 3 Sherman companies and 1 Stuart company, keeping light tanks in the fight. The Luzon campaign from January to August 1945 was one of the Stuarts' last major actions. Battalions such as the 716th fielded about 60 Shermans and 17 Stuarts, a typical mix by this time. While Shermans delivered most of the heavy firepower, Stuarts scouted ahead, escorted convoys, and protected flanks. Reports showed that Stuarts continued to fire large amounts of 37mm ammunition, alongside heavy use of 75mm shells from Shermans and artillery support. But their vulnerabilities became more obvious. Japanese forces used more 47mm anti-tank guns, 25mm anti-aircraft guns, and mines, all capable of destroying light tanks. Suicide attacks with explosive charges added even more danger. The Battle of Okinawa confirmed these trends. The network of caves and fortifications demanded heavier firepower than the Stuart could provide. Veterans later described the Stuart as little more than a mobile machine gun platform, useful for suppressing infantry, but unable to break bunkers on its own. Japanese defenses at Okinawa used more anti-tank weapons than ever before, inflicting steady losses. Supply difficulties only added to the challenge. The M24 Chaffee was introduced in late 1944 to replace the Stuart and fix its shortcomings. It kept the Stuart's mobility but added a much stronger 75mm gun. On Okinawa, its powerful shells would have been far more effective against fortified targets. The Chaffee's sloped armor offered slightly better protection, but it remained vulnerable to mines, anti-tank guns, and demolition charges. Despite being heavier than the Stuart, it kept high road speed and excellent cross-country mobility thanks to its torsion bar suspension. This would have been a major advantage on Okinawa's rough terrain, where mechanical breakdowns frequently sidelined both Stuarts and Shermans.